Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to once again be talking about the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. As we get closer to it, we have to start talking about it more obviously, and of course I'm going to be posting more, obviously this is my second video of the week. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about how where these systems could make landfall. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start with the ocean temperatures, where we see much above average sea surface temperatures across the main development region. And really what that's going to do is obviously strengthen these storms as we get towards the hurricane season, and these systems will start to show up in the models and even towards likely potential preseason systems, as of course those have been more common over the years. So these are actually July temperatures, so these are very hot for what we usually see during this time. So really, let's go to the sea surface temperature anomaly here, and we're going to see we are way above average. We're going to change colors here just so we can see it better. So we are way above average through the Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico, as we can see. And really, once these low pressure systems start coming off the MDR and start tracking westward, that's going to be bad news for anybody in the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean, and East Coast. The only areas really we see are in below average temperatures is the Gulf Stream and parts of the Gulf Loop, but even then, the Gulf of Mexico seems to be very strong. Very above average, I mean, in most parts. And really, we don't really need the Gulf Loop that much for these storms to be strong this year, even though I expect the Gulf Loop, the Gulf Stream to warm up as we get closer to the year. I expect them to be above average in temperature as well. But, again, we don't even really need them, too, because as we can see in the Caribbean and main development region, the sea surface temperatures are already well above average. So now we're going to get into the seasonal models, and we're not going to look at the sea surface temperatures today. We're going to look at precipitation and pressure to see where these systems are going to track and make landfall. If you want to see sea surface temperatures, more of the numbers, please go watch my video of what when I posted a couple days ago, my first official 2024 hurricane season forecast. But yeah, anyway, we're going to look at the precipitation anomaly for the monthly. We're going to start with canned sips, and we're going to work our way to Euro seasonal. We're not going to make this video too long and lengthy. We're going to get to the point. Last video I feel like was a little bit too long, but anyway, moving on. So as we get into June and July, we do see well above average precipitation in the MDR. That just shows how the low pressure systems are going to be coming off the MDR and moving, tracking westward. And then we can see above average sea surface precipitation in the southern Caribbean. That just shows we could see more storms tracking through there, more low pressure areas. And really, let's go to the mouse here, my bad. As we go towards July, we do see more above average precipitation in the main development region and the Caribbean. And we do see now that as these low pressures track westward and come into the Caribbean due to a strong high pressure system we'll get to in a bit, we do start to see more above average precipitation in the northern Caribbean and central Gulf of Mexico, and a little bit up the East Coast. So what that means is that this is when we could start to see systems going maybe towards Cuba, but towards the Gulf of Mexico and towards, say, the Florida Panhandle, the Alabama and Mississippi coast, and maybe towards Louisiana a bit, and maybe some up the East Coast action, but I really doubt that's going to happen due to, like I said, a strong Bermuda high we'll get to in a bit. As we get into peak season, August, September is really the peak, but we're going to go to August for this year. As over the past couple of years, we've seen August really the peak. We do see a lot of above average precipitation in the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. So what we're really seeing here is as these low pressure systems move westward, we could really see a lot of them going into the Gulf of Mexico, which I really do expect this year. And I do expect a lot of them, what we're seeing by this precipitation, they could go up towards, say, the Florida Panhandle, Alabama coasts, and towards Louisiana potentially. And also, a lot of them could go towards Texas, though I do think that this is just a lot more precipitation. Low pressure systems in the Bay of Campeche for now in August. I don't think Texas will get addressed till later. And we're going to go to September now, which we do see is more below average precipitation according to the canned SIPs. But obviously, due to the above average precipitation in the Caribbean, I do think we'll still have systems track into there, and a lot of systems are going to happen in September and hit land like usual. With above average seasons like we saw in 2020, where a lot of systems hit land. Just because it doesn't show above average precipitation doesn't mean we're not going to get anything. In fact, it doesn't really mean anything, because most of these low pressure systems are going to be forming outside of the region. Then we get to October, and the season starts to wind down. But as in October and November, though, I do expect the systems to go more westward, or they could, I think, based on how they could either go, how the Bermuda High is going to be set up. Sorry, I can't talk right now. They're either going to track more towards Texas. This track is a little bit too south. Or they could go up the East Coast. There's also going to be chances for that in the later season. Again, it's more uncertain due to different patterns. And then we're going to now go into the European seasonal, and then we'll get to the high pressure. So we're going to go to June, where we do see low pressure systems are going to track westward towards the Caribbean, and due to a strong Bermuda High. And really what we're seeing here is that there could be a lot of recurvatures in the very early season of June, and also some into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. As we go into July, more systems are going to go towards... Wait, that was a horrible arrow. More systems are going to be going towards the Caribbean. Also, sorry, I'm not very good with this pen tool. One of my first times using it. So, anyway, more in towards the Caribbean and up into the Gulf of Mexico. That's more action like that going on. And then as we get into August, big change, well above average precipitation in the Gulf of Mexico. And really that's what we're going to be seeing here is systems are going to, of course, track westward, and then they're going to be going up towards the Gulf of Mexico. And due to this above average precipitation here, I do think we're going to be seeing a lot of Florida panhandle action, as well as Alabama. Mississippi and Louisiana, I don't think are as favored by the Euro, because Euro is going a little bit more east. But yeah, and then we could have some up the East Coast action. But then as we get into September, it's going to be more above average precipitation in the Caribbean. So that means we could have more low pressure systems going through the area. And towards Florida again, because of the above average precipitation, and towards Alabama. So what we're seeing in Euro so far is much more Florida Panhandle, Alabama action, but not so much Texas, Louisiana. I mean, we do have above average precipitation in Texas, so Euro is definitely still showing the fact that we are going to have some systems going towards Texas, just not as much Louisiana, or just not as much as to the extent of canned SIPs is showing for Texas in some of the later months. So now we're going to go into the high pressure. So we're going to go to monthly anomaly, and we're going to go right to June. So we are going to start off as a pretty strong Bermuda High. Low pressure systems are going to be tracking westward due to a very strong Bermuda High. And that's basically what the strong Bermuda High is going to do, is it's going to stop systems from recurving out into the Atlantic, and it's going to also stop potentially some recurvatures of the East Coast. So obviously, as we get into the hurricane season with the strong Bermuda High, we're going to have more systems going towards land, so into the Caribbean, into the Gulf of Mexico. As we get into July and August, the Bermuda High is going to strengthen a bit, and that's where we have our main risk towards Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, due to these systems not being able to recurve. And of course, in the later season, with a weakening high, of course, there's going to be some systems going towards Texas, as some precipitation models show, but of course, up the East Coast action with a weaker Bermuda High. And really, it's going to be the same case for canned SIPs. We're going to go here, and we do see they show a little bit of a stronger Bermuda High But so that's going to favor a little bit more Louisiana, but it's also going to favor Alabama, Mississippi, the Florida Panhandle, and then parts of Texas. So depending on how the ridge is set up, we're going to have a large Gulf Coast risk with much towards the east and central Gulf Coast, and I do expect stuff for southern Florida, stuff that can get under the high stuff. It's not very uncommon. Stuff like Katrina hit southern Florida, and then of course we could have some things going towards Texas, and then the later season was weaker. Bermuda High, of course, things that could still get towards Texas as some of the precipitation models showed, like I showed earlier, but easier for systems to recurve up the East Coast. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys